Hello, my name is Imani, and I am with the Confidence Group, and today we're going to discuss the unit of life, the cell. Okay, all living things are composed of cells. We have unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. The unicellular organisms are organisms that are consistent or consisting of one cell. And the multicellular organisms are organisms consisting of many cells. The cell is the basic unit of all living things, and the cells arise from pre-existing cells. We are surrounded by life, but how do we define life? Does it use energy? Does it move? Does it consume food and water? Defining a living thing is a difficult proposition, as is defining life, that property possessed by living things. However, a living thing possesses certain properties that help define what it is. So all living things have complex organization. Complex organizations are not found in non-living objects. They are composed of cells that form tissues, and tissues that form organs, and organs that form organ systems. Example, human beings. Metabolism. Living things exhibit a rapid turnover of chemical materials, which is referred to as metabolism. All living things are able to respond to stimuli in the external environment. For example, living things respond to changes in light, heat, sound, and chemical and mechanical contact. Growth. All living things grow. Growth requires an organism to take in a material from the environment around it and organize the material into its own structure. Reproduction. All living things have the ability to reproduce, make copies of itself by the process known as reproduction. There are two forms of reproduction. Asexual reproduction, which involves only one parent, and the resulting cells are generally identical to the parent cell. And more complex organisms engage in a type of reproduction called sexual reproduction, in which two parents contribute to formation of a new individual. Now, there are two types of cells. We have the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. The prokaryotic cells do not have a membrane-bound nucleus, while a eukaryotic cell, it has a true nuclei. Alright, so let's now discuss the parts of a cell for a plant. The nucleus. It could be called the brain of the plant cell and the most important of all plant cell parts. This is because the cell nucleus performs all the administrative tasks of the cell. It coordinates all the metabolic functions. Cell growth, cell division, and protein synthesis are some of the tasks that are coordinated by the nucleus. Plastids. Plastids are those plant cells which carry pigments. So it goes without saying that chloroplast happens to be the most important of all plastids because they contain green chlorophyll pigments. Plastids photosynthesize sunlight and make food for the plants. Ribosome. These are the parts that predominantly contain ribonucleic acid, which is RNA. Their composition contains almost 60% of the ribonucleic acid and 40% of proteins. Ribosomes are those parts that are responsible for synthesis of proteins in plants. Mitochondria. Complex carbohydrates and sugars are very difficult to break down. The mitochondria is responsible for this task. They break complex carbohydrates into very simple form, which is easily used in plants. Mitochondria do not directly supply energy to all parts, but they are still called the powerhouse of the cells. Golgi body. The Golgi body, also known as Golgi complex or Golgi apparatus, is used to transport material inside and outside the cell. Golgi body alters and prepares lipids for them to transport outside the cell, but before they need to be synthesized by endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum is a network of convulsed sacs, which are in turn interconnected. The cytoplasm of the plant cell and nucleus are connected by the endoplasmic reticulum. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, which are distinguished according to the presence of ribosome. They can be called smooth or rough. Endoplasmic reticulum is that structure which basically transports glycogens, proteins, and other compounds. Now that we have discussed the parts of a plant cell, we will now discuss animal cell parts. The cell membrane is located around the outside of the cell. It is a protein-lipid bilayer. Cell junctions connect one cell to another. Gap junctions are found in the animals and are very, very small channels that allow various ions and other small substances to pass from one cell to another. Tight junctions are seals around cells to prevent leakage. They are important for containing liquids like stomach acid. The nucleus controls the cell's activities and contains all the genetic material, 46 chromosomes in humans. The nucleus is involved in the synthesis of ribosomal RNA. It is a dark body inside the nucleus. The nuclear membrane keeps DNA inside the nucleus but allows the messenger RNA and proteins through. It is a double membrane with large pores. Just like with the plant cells, animal cells contain ribosomes. Ribosomes assemble proteins from RNA codes. They are found free-floating in the cytoplasm throughout the cell or attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum is a series of long canals running throughout the cell. It detoxifies the cell and converts foodstuffs. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is a series of long canals running throughout the cell with ribosomes attached. It transports protein to the Golgi bodies for packaging. The Golgi bodies store and package cellular secretions for export out of the cell. Mitochondria produce most of the cell's energy. They are composed of two membranes, an outer and an folded inner membrane, and are common in muscle cells. Okay, we have discussed that there are two types of cells, the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. The prokaryotic cell, as we've spoken about before, has no membrane. There's no membrane-bound nucleus, and the eukaryotic cell possesses a nuclei. Now, with the prokaryotic cell, when it comes to reproduction, the cell usually divides by binary fission. There is no mitosis. Prokaryotic cells use meiosis to reproduce. And eukaryotic cells use mitosis. Okay, cell division is the process that cells go through in order to divide. The cell division associated with sexual reproduction is one type called meiosis, and the other type, the cell division associated with growth and cell replacement or repair, is called mitosis. Mitosis is a form of reproduction that uses asexual processes. Here is an example of what a cell looks like when it is dividing. Now, when mitosis happens, this is usually the replacement of cells, the growth of cells, like the skin, the heart, stomach, cheek, hair, etc. Those cells there, the reproduction of those, mitosis is used. So here's an example of a cell in the process of mitosis. So here you have the chromosomes in the middle. And these are just the phases that the cells go through during mitosis. Now, these processes cannot be seen with the naked eye. As a matter of fact, you would need to use a very special microscope to help you see the process. Now, mitosis processes are, or is, the process is it's less complex than dealing with meiosis. And so this is what happens with mitosis. You start off with one cell, the spindle fibers and everything separates, the chromatids and chromosomes duplicate, and they pinch off, and you're now created 2 extra cells. Okay, so let's talk about mitosis. But we're going to go deeper into the processes, the steps of the cell division. So here I'm going to draw the picture and explain to you each phase. So when dealing with mitosis, we have the first stage is the interphase stage. And in the interphase stage, we have the chromosomes duplicate and the copies remain attached to each other. That's the interphase stage. Then we have the prophase stage. And in this stage here, inside the nucleus, the chromosomes condense and become visible in the cytoplasm, and the spindle forms. And over here we have the prometaphase. And then in this phase here, the nuclear membrane breaks apart and the spindle starts to interact with the chromosomes. I know it's not a very good picture, but this is when the membrane is breaking apart. So here it's intact and here it's breaking apart. And here we have the metaphase. And in the metaphase, you have your spindle fibers here. Here are your spindles, here are your spindle fibers. And your chromatids. The copy chromosomes, align in the middle with the spindle. And so here we have anaphase. And in anaphase, the chromosomes separate into 2 genetically identical groups and move to the opposite ends of the spindle. So here are the spindles, here are the spindle fibers, and here are the chromatids, the chromosomes. They separated, and now they've moved to the opposite end. And guess why they're moving to the opposite end? They are preparing to create their own separate cells, their own daughter cells. So they're making sure that they have enough of what the original copy had before they separate. So now we move on to telophase. Telophase. And in telophase, this is the pinching phase. This is the phase where the cells are getting ready to separate. And they're pinching. And right here, during cytokinesis, they pinch, they separate, and they form two new daughter cells exactly identical to the first. Now, mitosis, this is an example of hydras, amoebas, skin cells reproducing. Okay, so now moving on to meiosis. Now with meiosis, we have the chromosomes from the parents within the nucleus. And during meiosis, the chromosomes from both parents are copied and paired to exchange portions of DNA. And in here, the chromosomes are replicated. So you see we have more chromosomes here than we started off with. Okay, so you see how with the chromosomes, some parts are colored and some parts are not colored in? Well, in this phase here, the chromosomes that match each other are going to pair up and become whole together. And then here, this creates a mix of new genetic material in the offspring cell. So the chromosomes swap sections of DNA. And in here, the cell divides into daughter nuclei. The chromosome pairs divide. And then in here, the chromosomes divide, daughter nuclei have single chromosomes, and a new mix of genetic material are created. And this is an example of sexual reproduction. An example would be animals, humans, things of that matter.